So I wanted to start this morning with a poem. If you were here on the 30th, you've already heard it. And it's important to me because I think it speaks to this philosophy in new beginnings. I am the new year. I am an unspoiled page in your book of time. I am your next chance at the art of living. I am your opportunity to practice what you have learned about life during the last 12 months. All that you sought and didn't find is hidden in me, waiting for you to search it out with more determination. All the good that you tried for and didn't achieve, it is mine to grant when you have fewer conflicting desires. All that you dreamed but didn't dare to do, all that you hoped but did not will, all the faith that you claimed but did not have, these slumber lightly, waiting to be awakened by the touch of a strong purpose. I am your opportunity to renew your allegiance to him who said, "Behold, I make all things new." I am the new year. And that to me is, we had a meeting, I lead a group, and we talked about the new year. And many people are like, it doesn't matter. Every day is a new day, every moment's a new moment. And that is true, except when you think of consciousness and the multitudes or the magnitude of people doing similar things at the same time. More energy gives more oomph, if you will, where two or more are gathered. And so to me, the only reason the new year might be a little bit different is because it is celebrated the world over by everybody, regardless what religion they practice, regardless if they don't practice any religion at all. And so it brings us to this philosophy, and as B said, this year, as probably every year, we start off the year, the first 4 weeks, doing the first 4 chapters of the Science of Mind textbook. B, you could be my Vanna. It's actually under my chair. It is for sale or on order at the Life Abundant bookstore. I highly recommend it. If you don't own a copy, I highly recommend that you get it because, like B said, no matter how many times you read it, you will always find something new or something different in its context because you are reading it with brand new eyes. You are reading it at a different level of consciousness than the last time you read it. Ernest Holmes says religious science is a synthesis of laws of science, opinions of philosophies, and revelations of religion applied to the needs and aspirations of all. That is the definition of who we are when we say we are religious scientists. How many of you knew you were a religious scientist? I know you have to be kind of old school because now we're called Centers for Spiritual Living. Our textbook is called the Science of Mind textbook. The philosophy itself has been, always will be religious science. And so we start off the year talking about the thing itself. What does that mean, the thing itself? Well, we're talking about that infinite source, that thing that is bigger than all of us, that we all swim in, play in, however you want to choose to recognize it. I choose to call it God sometimes. It can be, some religions, they call it by no name whatsoever because they know it's undefinable, because it's infinite. And it doesn't matter. It is a recognition that what it is exists whether we recognize it as so or not. It is always working whether we are saying yes to it or not. The biggest lesson for me to learn was it is always saying yes to me. It was saying yes to me when my life looked entirely different than it does today. It never pushed back on me and said, You may want to try a different path here, Gayle. There's an easier one. It waited patiently for me to have that little light bulb go off. It's not like your soul's not tapping. Your soul's tapping on you all the time. And you can ignore it from the time you get here until the time you leave. Or you can slow down and start to listen. What does that mean? What does that mean when I hear that tapping? We have declaration of principle, and the first one I think really is the most powerful of the 12. And it is, we believe in God, the living Spirit Almighty, one indestructible, self-existent cause. This one manifests in and through and as all creation, and yet it's not absorbed by its creation. The manifest universe is the body of God. Think about that. The manifest universe, that is us. We are the body of that divine. We are in physical form that which creates mountains and planets and flowers and stars. We are it in form. So really, take a breath and really embrace that you are it in form. Because to me, that is huge. When I say that, you should get goosebumps. Even if you don't believe it, you should get goosebumps. Wait a minute. I am it in form. Life, cause, all of it, I am it in form. And so every single day, there is an opportunity, every moment of every day, to live your life as if you are it in form. To truly practice kindness. To truly live from a place of knowing that there's nothing wrong. It may look chaotic. I may call it wrong because of how I see it through my eyes. And yet, if we truly believe there's a power greater than all of us and it is reacting to our thoughts, our way of being in the world, how are you being and what are your thoughts? See, that sometimes makes me pause. Like, how am I being and what are my thoughts? Because this little playfield right here, this is mine, right? Your little playfield's right there. And our playfields, they cross each other. We get to play with each other. We get to interact with each other. And we get to choose when we don't want to interact with people. And yet, even in the choice of not interacting, is to recognize there too is the power and presence of God in form. And I have shared this with you before. It is to recognize even those people who have broken our hearts, those people who have done us wrong, those people who, for whatever reason, we are constantly like this with. Does anybody have those people in their life? Please tell me I'm not the only one. Thank you. Those people. To recognize there too is the power and presence of God. And then if the relationship is over, finding your pony. Finding what is that gold nugget that person gave me. You know, with my first relationship, because he was mean. My first relationship, he was really mean. My first husband, not my first relationship. He was mean. And to this day, I am grateful that he was an amazing cook. Amazing cook. I put him through chef school. Now, some may say that's not very big. It's big enough. It is big enough. And I have searched for other reasons to be grateful. and I'm still working with. He was an amazing cook. We ate well when he was in our lives. But it shifts my energy, right? So the thing about this philosophy, and because we're going through the first 4 books of the Science of Mind textbook, each month they're going to choose a word. This word may scare the heck right out of all of you. And it's called responsibility. Because what you learn when you really embrace this philosophy is how powerful your words and your thoughts and your actions are. So it doesn't matter what somebody does supposedly to you. The gift in all of that is, how do you react to it? How do you respond? People can say and do whatever they want. They can't make you do or say or think anything. Now, maybe in some instances they can make you say something if you're threatened. They can't make you think anything differently. And a good example of that was the doctor that was a Holocaust survivor. And his entire family had been murdered. And they found out that he was administering to his fellow Jewish people in prison. And they stripped him of everything and brought him in to stand naked in front of the sergeant or whoever was in charge. Had taken his wedding ring, the only thing that he had to remind him of his wife. And he stood there and he said, "You will never make me hate you." Because that is power. People can't make you do things or feel things. And that's really owning about the thing itself. It lives and breathes and has its existence in you. And I don't know how many different ways to say how powerful that makes you. How really powerful that makes you. When you really grasp hold of, wait a minute, stardust. I said fairy dust this morning, but stardust. We're all stardust. So think about that. We're all connected. There is no separation, really. In quantum physics, they say that there is nothing between B and I, really. We're just a more solid form of energy. So if that's true and we're all one, then what we're pushing up against is ourselves all the time. Even though when I push up against something, it may look like it's Bernie, it's not. I'm pushing up against myself. Do you understand that? And so in pushing up against myself, I am constantly struggling because I think I'm separate. And yet in the delight of the divine, in its wisdom, it gives us that opportunity. It might have been a lot easier to put us into form and say, okay, here's the key to this, here's the wisdom key. All of you, I'm giving you the wisdom key. Love each other, play well together, life is grand. And yet we were supposed to learn something here. And I think what we were supposed to learn is we were given the wisdom key. Every single one of us. We were given that key that says, I can have it all. Absolutely everything, I can have it all. Now, we chose to be here, so there are things that are going to happen in our lives that are going to be absolutely upsetting to us. And I never want anybody to science of mind somebody. Don't ever look at somebody that says they have a cold and say, well, what's in your consciousness? Illness is in my consciousness right now. We don't necessarily say, I want to be ill. We are not like saying, oh, please make me sick today. However, I think when our body gets ill It is telling us, you're not taking care of me. You are not paying attention. You need to slow down. You need to quit worrying about things that might be coming up in the future. You need to stay in the present moment. There's a really good practice I learned about. I haven't tried it yet. I don't know if it's possible. However, I had a friend that went to a retreat in Southern California. They were only allowed to talk about things in the present moment. They couldn't talk about the past, which means they couldn't say, how'd you sleep last night? I don't know, that was last night. What are you doing later on today? They couldn't talk about the future. What's going on right here and right now? Think about how little time we spend in the present moment. Or at least I do. Worrying about the future or thinking about what just happened in the past. And the gift and the power is being present. It really is a powerful moment to be present. And it is a practice that I'm not going to say it's hard, because it's not easy for me to stay in the present moment. It might be for other people. It's not easy to have a conversation with somebody and just stay in the present moment. Not, gee, how was your New Year's? How was your ride here? How's this moment? Right? Think about that. Conversations would switch a lot, wouldn't it? You wouldn't have any gossip. You couldn't really complain about anybody unless they did something right there in that moment. Couldn't talk, it would shift your reality immensely if you kept your conversation to present moment, really present moment. There's a great book where she talks about that. It's the 4 questions. Is it true? Is it really true? And that is her whole philosophy. No matter what your upset is about life, is it happening to you right now in this moment? Because if we can stay in this moment, we realize that other stuff is just stuff. We give it purpose. We give it the hold in our body and our mind. So the thing itself is that magnificence that I choose to call God just because it's easier. And when I say God, nobody in the room questions, gee, I wonder what she's talking about. If I say it or thing, people might wonder. So it is that magnificence, and I choose to believe that it is an organism that we are living and breathing and playing in all the time. It's not something outside of ourselves that we are separate from. We are in it right now. So when you think about that, and then you think about, I have the wisdom key, and I am living in the quantum soup, if you will, of the divine that created all of this. And so then I sometimes think, how dare I play small? What gives me the right to think that I'm not worthy? What gives me the right to think I don't deserve? It's amazing to me how much I personally limit myself because what I've been taught or what stories I've made up about myself that aren't true. I, like you, am God in form. I, like you, am a powerful presence. I, like you, deserve whatever I choose. I, like you, am worthy. There is one power, one presence, and it chooses or it chose for us to be here, if you will. And so what are you doing with that? How are you waking up each morning and embracing that? Because remember, in this form, we have a limited time. Every single one of us. There is that comment, I forget who I heard it from the very first time. Nobody gets out of here alive in the physical form. Our soul goes on and on forever. However, each one of us, when we came here, we knew. And it is painful when people leave before us, regardless if it's human or pet, because I've had a series of that happen to friends in my life right now, Lori being one of them. It is painful for those people that are left behind. And yet to remember, that is a good example of why you don't want to waste your time worrying about, for me, right, worrying about somebody in a car next to me on the freeway. Waste of time. I'm going to share a story, and I hope he doesn't mind. I won't use his name, though, so then. Somebody's doing a practice about really deciding when something happens that would normally annoy them. Well, that shouldn't annoy me. I forget his exact terms. That shouldn't annoy me, so I will just practice being with that person. And wouldn't you know, the example he used was driving a car. There are no mistakes in the universe, are there? And his example was, if somebody was in front of him and they were doing the speed limit, rather than thinking, or I guess, no, that his example was, if he was driving down the freeway and somebody came up and started to speed up behind him, and he must have some of my personality qualities, because yes, the natural instinct for me, like for him, put on the gas. Okay, maybe some of you don't have this little weird thing, but I do, and so did this person. And he said, and my process now is to slow down to the speed limit, move into the right lane, and put my car on cruise control. Every little part of my body went, why would you do that? And yet, what a practice. Every time you think somebody is doing something that is negatively affecting you, instead of responding to what it is, choose the opposite. Does that make sense? Choose the opposite, no matter what it is. Because that's the power you are given. Do you think that it's any wonder that my whole upset thing is being in a car on the freeway? Who draws that in? I bet the rest of you drive on the freeway. You don't have the same things happening in cars that I do. Yeah. Oh, well, okay. Well, then you're drawing that in, B. Stop it. But it's my energy. That's why the word is responsibility. It's your energy. You are the one that you're calling in these experiences. So the first thing you should ask yourself is why? Why am I calling in this experience? And sometimes you aren't going to like the answer if you're real honest with yourself. Because there's something that your 2-year-old is like, could we heal this already? Whatever that, could we please just heal this? So that is the gift of the first book, if you will, of our textbook, is realizing that there is a power bigger than you, that you are living in it all the time, and it is you in form. And if I'm playing small, shame on me. Because nobody can give me my good. Nobody can make me happy. Inside out. And so, interestingly enough, because I'm on the ministerial listserv, and we are doing these talks together around the country and around the world, wherever there's a Science of Mind church, they can choose to follow these titles, and I choose to do that because I think there's power to know that there are other centers around the country talking about the same thing in a different way, and yet talking about the same thing. And part of it that they sent out was the difference between how do you say that word? Plasticizing. No. Pro- proselytize. Okay, Cynthia's going to say that word for me. Versus evangelics. Yeah, I don't know why I have trouble with those two words. However, the difference being when you use the P word, because it's not coming out of my mouth. I try and try. I need to practice at home. You are trying to convince somebody that they need to join your religion, that you have got the best thing on the block. When you evangelize, if that's a word, Cynthia's saying it is now, thank you, Cynthia, or the E word, you are talking to people about where you spend your Sundays, what you learn, what you get from community, how it's changing your life. And there is a difference. And that's what I invite us all to start to do. Because I think we have a really powerful community. I think every chair in here should have a body in it every single Sunday. I think we should have a church that is our own because we've got the seed money to do that. And so now it's not thinking, it's putting it into form. And so if you have a thought of, I don't want it to be a big church. I like Genesis the size it is. I invite you, that's okay. Don't limit Genesis. That's why we have small groups, care circles, is so we can still feel that real connection. That's why they don't ever get bigger than 10 people. So you really feel loved up and seen and heard. Because growing this community isn't about me and it isn't about you. It's about spreading the word of this philosophy and how it changes people's lives. And I know for a fact it has changed mine. I know it's changed Bea and Barb's. I know it's changed Heather's. It's changed Josh's. I know it changed Jim's. It's changed Pete's. It's changed Bernie's. Okay, Mary and Colleen. It changes Daryl. The new guy, for goodness sakes, people. New here. They had found this in Florida. It changes people's lives. And that's why it's important, I think, to start to let people know. Because I think there is enough suffering in the world that if we really start to embrace the fact that suffering is a condition, and we can choose to play in it, or we can choose not. Just like chaos. Chaos is a condition that you can choose to play in and continue to have in your life or not. And so I invite you all to start talking about how Genesis has changed your life, or how science of mind or religious science has changed your life. And talk about it amongst yourselves, first of all. Because it's important that we know how it changed our lives. For those of you that don't know, I got clean and sober because of this philosophy. I used science of mind because it was comfortable and I felt seen and heard. That is how I got clean and sober. I don't recommend that for people because there are 12-step programs out there that are fabulous and they help many people and they have an intention of helping people. It was not my path. This was my path. And in May, I'll have 17 years. So I might not recommend it. However, it works really well. It worked really well for me. because it got me out of the me syndrome. The me syndrome. Poor me. Chaos everywhere. So when you realize that you are living in the center of the divine, when you really embrace that, when you feel it in your bones, if you will, at a cellular level, I promise you, your life will shift. It will change. And you will invite in a powerful presence that you had, I still can't fathom the infinite possibilities that are available to me every single moment of every day. So let's pray. We stand here together in the mind of God, or we sit here together in the mind of God. We are as one, knowing right here and right now that there's nothing that separates us from anything else. God is that circle, that circumference with no beginning and no end, and we are within it. It's infinite. We can't go anywhere. We can't do anything. It is who we are at the very center and core of our existence. God, the one, the power, the presence. And so together we just take a deep breath. And as we let go, we relax into that realization. Life is good. And it is getting better with every new thought, every brand new baby day, every new year, every moment that I choose or you choose to embrace the truth of who we are, our life gets better. It goes from a roller coaster ride of deep dives and extreme highs to knowing the truth. That there may be a deep dive and it's okay. It takes me to that soul level. And when I get to a real high, it allows me to see off into the infinite all that is available. I can call it chaotic or I can call it life. And it doesn't matter because it's mine and it's yours and we embrace it together. So I just call in that thing itself, knowing how much power, how much presence, how much possibility lives in and through and as me in this moment and every moment, as it does with all of you. So I give thanks for that knowing, for that blessing, for that connection to the one. As I turn all of these words over, I realize that as they have been spoken, they are just going home, back to from whence they came. Sprinkled lightly into that infinite field of possibilities where God, the universe, says yes to me all the time. So it is saying yes to being bold, to being courageous, to being loving, to being compassionate, to being fun. All of it mine, right here, right now, all of it yours, whatever you claim, know it to be so. Together we let go and let God, and we say, and so it is. Amen.